I caught her red-handed on my own security footage. The president of our HOA, Clarissa Mott, standing in my garage with a war master key, prying open my father's cedar trunk and pocketing his war medals like they were hers to take. That wasn't a fine or a warning or community standards. That was theft in my home. Act 1. The conflict begins. My name's Mark Holloway. I'm a retired locksmith, 30 years cutting keys, designing locks, building security systems for half this city. My dad was a Marine, a man who carried shrapnel in his leg his entire life. And when he passed, he left me his cedar trunk. Inside maps, letters, medals, the pieces of him that survived when so many didn't. That trunk has always sat in the back of my garage, covered with a clean drop cloth, like a little altar. My son, Ethan, he's 16. He opens it almost every weekend, just to hold the medals, to remind himself of his granddad, especially since we lost his mom last year. That trunk isn't just storage, it's oxygen for my kid. And then came Clarissa. Clarissa Mott is one of those Karen types, you know the kind. Sharp haircut, sharper tongue. She struts around the neighborhood like she owns it, waving bylaws like they're scripture. HOA president, clipboard glued to her hand, lips pursed like a judge about to hand down a sentence. One morning, she slid a notice under my door. Garage violates community aesthetic standards. Really? My garage door is closed 99% of the time. I almost laughed. But when I saw her smug little smile at the next board meeting, it didn't feel funny anymore. I stayed calm, though. I let her think I was just another tired homeowner who'd eventually roll over and pay the fine. What she didn't know, that garage is wired tighter than a jewelry vault. Motion cameras, magnetic sensors, every door pinging my private server. I knew the exact second she walked in. And when I opened the footage, there she was, Clarissa, in my garage, with the HOA master key, walking straight to the cedar trunk like she'd been there before. She opened it, took something, pocketed it. No hesitation, no shame. And when I checked my father's Marine pin, the one with 2 stars gone, that pin meant everything to Ethan, and she had no idea what she'd just taken from us. Act escalation and the twist. I wanted to storm over to her house right then, pound on her door. But years of locksmith work taught me anger is noisy, evidence is quiet. So I waited. I asked around. Turns out Alan on this corner got fined for mulch that wasn't approved. Darla's husband got dinged for leaving a rake too close to his driveway. Petty nonsense. But none of them had ever caught Clarissa in their garage. This was different. A week later, I get a certified letter. $750 fine. Attached was a blurry photo of my closed garage. Nothing visible, nothing wrong, just intimidation. Plain and simple. That night, Ethan stood behind me as I read the letter. "What now?" he asked. His voice cracked a little, and it hit me. This wasn't just my fight. She stole from him too. For the first time in years, I felt like giving up. Just pay the fine. Let it go. What if I was dragging my son into a war we couldn't win? The police brushed it off as a civil matter. My neighbors just sighed and told me to avoid trouble. Maybe Clarissa was right. Maybe I was making this bigger than it was. I sat at the kitchen table staring at that cedar trunk, like it had already been emptied. And I hated myself for even thinking about surrendering. But then came Denise. Denise Harper, our HOA treasurer. Soft-spoken, cardigan sweaters, the type who never raises her voice at meetings. She pulled me aside after one session. "Not here," she whispered. "Coffee shop. Tomorrow, 8A. Mao." We met the next morning. She wrapped both hands around her mug, like she was holding on for dear life. And then she told me everything. Clarissa wasn't supposed to have extra keys. Only 5 existed. President, vice president, maintenance, fire marshal, and one locked in the office safe. But Denise had seen logs. Clarissa checked out the master multiple times and never returned it. Worse, she'd signed an invoice for 7 duplicate cuts. 7. No vote, no approval, no oversight. That wasn't just HOA nonsense. That was fraud. I showed Denise the still from my footage. Clarissa, hand on my trunk. Denise's face went pale. "She's not careful." I told her, "She's arrogant." Denise nodded slowly. "I can help you, but she'll come after you harder." Good. I thought, let her. I went to see Gus, an old buddy from the locksmith shop. I handed him the still image of Clarissa's key. He squinted, pulled out his magnifier, and whistled. That's a restricted HOA master cut. No way she should have that without authorization. 10 minutes later, he confirmed her key was a duplicate of my lock's master sequence. Unauthorized, illegal. He signed a statement right there. Now I had footage, logs, an expert witness, and Denise quietly gathering more from inside the board. The trap was set. Act 3. The showdown and collapse. Clarissa called an emergency HOA meeting. The clubhouse smelled like lemon wipes and cheap linoleum, but that night it felt like a courtroom. She sat at the head table, chin high, papers stacked like shields. This meeting was called, she began, to address rumors of unauthorized access. Denise stood up, voice steady. Not rumors, evidence. She laid a folder on the table. Key logs, duplicate invoices, missing return signatures. And she said it flat out. Clarissa, you authorized duplicates against protocol. The room went dead silent. Clarissa's smile twitched. You're out of order. Treasurer Harper. Then call me out of order. Denise shot back. But you can't call these fake. All eyes turned to me. I rose slowly, holding a sealed envelope. Inside is a signed affidavit from a master locksmith confirming the duplicate key, plus footage from my security system, plus sensor logs from the cedar trunk in my garage. I pulled out the still Clarissa's hand on the trunk. Gasps rippled across the room. Clarissa's voice went sharp. This is slander. He's retaliating for fines. I cut her off. You walked into my locked garage. You opened my father's trunk. You stole what didn't belong to you. That wasn't HOA business. That was your choice. And then Ethan stood up. His hands shook, but his voice didn't. My grandfather's medals were in that trunk. My mom used to say they proved he never backed down. And now 2 of them are gone. No one gave you permission. You had no right. The whole room froze. For the first time, Clarissa didn't have words. Neighbors started speaking up one by one. My shed was unlocked last month. My tools moved. She fined me for a kayak that wasn't even outside. The dam broke. The board huddled when they came back. Clark, the vice president, read the motion. Effective immediately. Clarissa Mott is suspended from all HOA authority pending legal review. An independent audit will begin this week. Clarissa shot up, papers scattering. You cowards! This is a witch hunt. I just looked at her. Calm. No, this is accountability. She glared, tried to speak. But the uniformed officer at the back stepped forward. Ms. Mott, we need you outside. Not under arrest for now, but we have questions about a theft report. And just like that, her power evaporated. She gathered her things with shaking hands, stormed out of the room. And for the first time since I moved into that neighborhood, the silence that followed wasn't fear, it was relief. Closing line. She thought silence made her untouchable. But we proved silence is exactly what lets bullies win. Break it, and they fall.